Movement has been a focal point in Call of Duty the last few years, and it took a lot of trial and error to end up where we are now. And with Black Ops 6 new omnidirectional movement system being announced, we thought what a better time than now to take a look at movement throughout the Call of Duty franchise. I'm Ornery from NYSL, and today we're taking a look at the entire history of movement in Call of Duty. Believe it or not, but Call of Duty 1 and 2 had no sprint feature whatsoever. It wouldn't be until Call of Duty 3 where that feature would be implemented. But from there, all the way until Modern Warfare 2, pretty much had the same exact system as far as movement went. Walk, sprint, jump, crouch, prone, and mantle. These are all elements that are still in every Call of Duty today, but without any added flair like we've seen in games to come after. During the state of Call of Duty, in some of these games, there were a handful of perks that modified movement, but didn't necessarily give any additional movement options. Perks like Marathon or Extreme Conditioning gave the user unlimited sprint and even a faster mantle time if you had the Pro version. Then you have Lightweight, which just let you move around faster. Hell, I'll even throw Commando in here because it gave you such a crazy knife lunge. Aside from these perks, there was no other movement mechanics going on here other than the ones that would be a core fundamental aspects for all Call of Duties to come. That was until Black Ops 1. Alongside Black Ops 1, we had a new game-changing mechanic that would be a beloved feature for most players, known as the Dolphin Dive. Now when you're sprinting, if you press the crouch button, your player will dive forward and immediately be prone. This was a solid utility for jumping behind cover when in a pinch, and also made for a ton of cinematic moments in the game. Factor in this movement feature being a part of one of the best perks in all of Call of Duty Zombies, it was quickly a hit amongst the COD community and will return in Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 2, and Modern Warfare 3. Polarizing release of COD Ghost was met to a lot of criticism, but there's no denying that there was one mechanic in this game that would end up being a staple to Call of Duties to come. That was, of course, the slide. Believe it or not, this was the first Call of Duty with the slide mechanic in it, and I honestly didn't really know that until making this video. It may be much more of a mild version of the slide we're used to, but whether you want to accept it or not, Ghost in one way or another paved the way for slide canceling sweats today. Another small note that I think should be mentioned is that this was the first game that also added a leaning mechanic. You could really argue this isn't much of a movement mechanic, but I'll go ahead and give it a shout here just because I think it's influential in some way, especially when you consider that Black Ops 6's omnidirectional movement system has some version of this added to it by the looks of it. Exo movement was the biggest selling point with Advanced Warfare and resulted in one of the biggest outrages in the community. This new movement, you can now double jump, horizontally dash forward in mid-air, dodge in any direction, slam it to the ground, and even slide with the new Exo boost. This was essentially a much better version of the slide we had in Ghosts. Not only this, but you could combine pretty much all of these movements in any order to create one of the most chaotic movement systems Call of Duty has ever seen. I personally wasn't crazy on this, and maybe if this movement system was implemented in any other game without the Call of Duty name tag, it would have been met with better feedback. But I think it's safe to say very few people enjoyed Exo movement. Now we have Black Ops 3, where we had a much more mild version of the Exo movement. We had a booster pack system that gives the player a meter that shows you how much boost you have left. You use it all at once for one big jump or 2 or 3 small boosts to get a further distance and stay in the air longer. You could also wall run, which was a lot more fluid than you would think, and also let you change the direction simply by turning around and jumping again. Power slide is back as well, and might be the most powerful slide we've ever seen in any Call of Duty. Comment down below if you remember G-sliding too. You could mantle from the side or in the front, which resulted in little to no interruptions throughout all of these features as well. Round things off with unlimited sprint and being able to use your gun or equipment while doing pretty much any of these, and this was probably one of the most successful experimentations with movement COD has ever seen. Also, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first Call of Duty you could swim, which they would later remove and then bring back in Modern Warfare 2, so that's kind of cool as well. Also, on a side note, this movement system would also be used in Infinite Warfare with some minor tweaks to some of the statistics, which means I don't think it needs to be dove into, so we're going to leave that alone. That would just be a little redundant. COD World War II and Black Ops 4 would borrow mechanics from all the previous CODs, but it wouldn't be until Modern Warfare 2019 where we would get what most people consider the best movement in all of Call of Duty. I'm going to explain this movement system as though you've never played it, even though I'm pretty sure majority of people watching it know how this all works. But here's a refresher anyways. For starters, you got a brand new sprinting system that had been a mainstay for the series since. This was known as Tac Sprint, obviously. This was an added sprinting option that has your operator put his gun all the way up, just allowing him to go full sprint mode, which had a sprint to fire penalty alongside it. Stim shots were also more useful than ever since it increases your speed and also heals you, which allowed you to outplay anyone even at a disadvantage. Sliding is here as well and created an exploit, or I guess at this point I would just call it a mechanic that we still have today, known as slide canceling. Slide cancel also reset your attack sprint, which was just yet another way of keeping momentum and a good flow for the game to continue. This movement was pretty much identical in Cold War and Vanguard, but also was the core engine that Warzone 1 ran off of in its entirety, which most people would argue is the reason why Warzone is so popular. Just a few years after Modern Warfare 19, we later got reverted to Modern Warfare 2 movement, which is most people's least favorite Call of Duty for that sole reason alone. Stim shots now don't increase movement to the same degree, there's no slide canceling, and everything just felt overall slow and clunky. Aside from movement, there's also just a laundry list of issues with the game itself. However, there is a highlight here, and that's bringing back the Dolphin Dive. Although not too crazy, it is a nice quality of life fix and actually has made a decent impact with Warzone's movement, adding a new parachute movement exploit. However, I bet there's people who would rather have exo movement over this garbage. Now we're at modern day, where Modern Warfare 3 has made a solid attempt into bringing back the Modern Warfare 19 movement, and I would say they did a pretty dang good job at doing so. Although trying to undo the damage of Modern Warfare 2 is nearly impossible, it was a valiant effort that has given the franchise some hope. As far as the future, Black Ops 6's omnidirectional movement has been turning a lot of heads and has potential to revolutionize Call of Duty as a whole. I don't think we'll truly understand it until we actually get our hands on Black Ops 6, but in the meantime, what are your all's thoughts on this new movement system? Also, what's your favorite movement in Call of Duty? Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one.